Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Style Masterclass Podcast. I'm your host, Miss J. I am a master certified coach and a style coach. I'm so excited to be here. If you are watching on the YouTubes, we would love if you would subscribe and give me a little comment love below. If you are listening to this in the podcast form, wherever you get your podcast, please leave us a review and comment. We love to hear from you all, and I'm seeing them coming in, and it's just so fun to read them. Let's get into this week's topic. This week's topic is something I just came up with, hot off the presses, but it's so good I had to come share it. We are going to talk about false cheerleading. False cheerleading is when something happens in your brain and you're excited about it. You're like, oh, I've lost some weight. I've decided to get ready today. I look cute. And instead of just celebrating that particular moment, right? Look how beautiful I look today. I look so good today. I love it. And just basking in the warmth and the beauty of feeling good and taking good care of yourself, you do this. You should keep going. You should do this every day. We should make this a habit. We should keep going. You got to keep going. Keep doing this. All right. And then you notice like a little shame spiral starts to come up. You start to feel a little overwhelmed by your own thoughts that you're thinking, that somehow you have to maintain some level of perfection that you've now achieved on one occasion. It's false cheerleading. Instead of just allowing yourself the beauty of celebrating this moment where you feel good, where you look good, where things might feel peaceful in your own head, you feel at peace in your own body for just this one moment. And instead of just giving yourself the pleasure of that, you immediately jump into false cheerleading. Why is it false? Because it's not actually producing any good emotion. It's not producing excitement. It's not producing, just straight up amazing ambition, feelings that are going to help you move forward, motivation, inspiration. Instead of those feelings, which we think it might be fostering, we end up feeling overwhelmed and low-key shamed. Low-key shamed in that, why aren't we doing this all the time? We should be doing this more often. Why aren't we doing it more often? And then that roller coaster, that thought loop that so many of us find ourselves in, we end up sticking ourselves there inadvertently. Now, it's meant to be cheerleading in that it sounds positive. Keep going. You've got this. Let's do this every day. Let's do this every week. Why can't I have more of this, right? When we tell ourselves things like that, it's not actually inspiring or motivating. In fact, I often ask my clients, does it actually feel good to you when you say that to yourself? How do you feel when you tell yourself things like that? And oftentimes my clients will pause and be like, actually, it doesn't feel very good at all. It actually feels pretty terrible. Why is this a problem? Why is false cheerleading a problem, right? Because obviously it's not a great motivator. It's not actually inspiring. But in a bigger picture of things, it causes what I call rebellious resistance. And there'll be a whole podcast episode dedicated to this topic in future, but I want to leave this nugget here. A lot of times when we feel like we're being sort of manipulated or shamed into doing something we really don't want to do, but because we think other people will think well of us if we do it, we reach a maximum point of that effectiveness. It'll reach a peak where you just can't maintain the charade anymore. And what happens is a rebellion in resistance to the emotion you're feeling. So let's say you're feeling shame. To rebel against that emotion, to resist that emotion, rebellion will happen in terms of an action you don't want to be doing in response to resisting that emotion. I'll give you an example. If someone tells you, you look beautiful today, and instead of saying, oh, thank you, I look so good, thank you, and just, again, giving yourself the pleasure of that moment, your brain will start to do the false cheerleading, like, we should do this more often. We should do this every day. We have to get dressed every day because we're going to get compliments, right? We're going to get compliments. If we dress like this every day, we drive ourselves nuts. Or your brain will have some rebellious resistance. And often I find that at the end of some false cheerleading is you'll find yourself in rebellious resistance, where instead of saying, oh yes, I look great, and enjoying the pleasure of that comment, enjoying that moment, you're like, well, I don't look good every day? Well, you don't like how I look? Would I look like shit yesterday? Did I look horrible yesterday? Fine, I'm not getting dressed at all. Why should I even bother? People are going to comment on my body. People are going to comment how I look, blah, 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 right? Who's been there? I feel shame. There's some mortification or embarrassment that you happen to notice that I got dressed today. So my brain has turned that into a evil comparison of one day to the next. I don't give myself the pleasure of that moment. I either start to false cheerlead now I have to do it forever and for always at this level, or screw you. I don't like the emotion that this thought is bringing up in me. So I'm going to rebel. I'm now going to do the exact opposite of the thing that you've complimented me for. But it's not a rebellion against the person giving the compliment. It's an internal rebellion against yourself. That is rebellious resistance. We will talk about this some more. We'll deep dive into its various forms. For now, I want you to realize that false cheerleading doesn't create some internal cheerleader. False cheerleading is really just trying to sort of disguise beating yourself up in some nice language. And I want you to be on the lookout for that. Let's say you've set a goal for how you want to dress every day, how you want to show up every day, how much makeup you choose to wear or not wear. And you happen to like it. You happen to enjoy the sensation of that moment. True cheerleading would be something like, you look so good. I would love it when you're ready if we could do this again tomorrow. It'd be so fun to see if we could replicate the results tomorrow. And if not, totally okay. Love you anyway. Love you regardless. I'd probably want to go put some makeup on tomorrow if that was the thing I was working on, right? Or getting dressed. Because I know that regardless of whether I do or don't, I still have my back. Regardless of whether I do or don't, I'm still going to be loving and kind towards myself. Regardless of whether I do or don't, I'm still going to have a relationship with myself that is built on kindness, where I listen and I take stock. True cheerleading. False cheerleading says, I'm only going to love you if you perform at this level, with this height of consistency, with this, kind of perfunctory excellence. Making no room for your humanity, making no room for days where you don't feel like it, making no room for a human experience. That's false cheerleading. So I want you to be on the lookout for that. If you do something well, can you just celebrate that moment? Can you give yourself the pleasure of just enjoying that you like the way you executed something? And then you can decide if you want to replicate it from a place of love and kindness, accepting that there'll be days where maybe it doesn't go to plan because you're having a human experience. Your glam gal mission, should you choose to accept it, is to notice when you get that heightened, ramped up state and you actually feel terrible, but you seem to be saying nice things to yourself. I want you to check in. How are those things landing? How are you feeling? Is this a case of some false cheerleading? And then how do you reframe all of that to say to yourself, yes, it would be amazing if we could do this again, and totally okay if we don't. That's what I have for you today, my darlings. Please note that the Style Masterclass program will open again in November. If you want first dibs when we open our doors, you want to get on that wait list, I want you to visit judithgaton.com/wait. All right, my loves, have a